So, as a white belt, I've only entered 2 tournaments in my life in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I mean, it could be, I can go into depth some other time about that, about why some people choose not to do competition, and you know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu can just be for a lifestyle thing. That's of course what I tend to do. Although I do believe that if you are going to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or any martial art, you should put yourself in, try at least one competition in your life. If you don't like it, that's fine. You don't have to do it anymore. But being in competition, there's a certain feeling and satisfaction. I think you can look back in your life and go, wow, you know, I've put myself in that line of fire. Especially from me, someone that hasn't really competed. I'm somewhat of a pacifist, really. That I don't really like competition. I'm quite nervous and whatnot, but you know, to have done it in my life, you surprise yourself, and I think everyone deserves to try it at least once. My first Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competition, I managed to get myself a bronze medal. This is the only medal I ever got in a Jiu-Jitsu competition, and there was only 3 of us competing that day. So, of course, that means I lost my competition, but I still managed to get a medal. And yeah, it sucked, man. It was like, I think I only had 1 stripe on my belt at that time when I entered that competition. I'm not too sure why I did it. I guess because a few people in our club had already done it, and I thought, I was like, oh, you know, I can roll pretty well with the people in my club. You know, why not challenge myself? Just give this a go, and maybe it'll get me graded or upgraded. I'm not sure. I just remembered that. Okay, so the first guy I went against, it was like a strong Māori kid. He was wearing one of those rugby headgears, and he took me down. I think he just double legged me. He passed my guard. Somehow I regained guard again, and pretty much for the whole time I was just stuck in guard. Like, I didn't try any submissions. I tried just grabbing his gi, like not Ezekiel choke, no cross collar chokes, and he was just putting his neck down, defending it. And then I tried like a fist choke. I remember that, and I was just like, oh my god. And then I just like tried squeezing with my legs, tried to squeeze his ribs, and I was just like, man, I'm not. And it's just nothing like how I would normally roll in class. You know, normally I'm a bit more fluid, and I'll just try to go after it. But I was so nervous, and eventually he passed my guard and he scored a bunch of points on me, but he didn't submit me. And I found out later on, I think that guy was almost at his blue belt at the time. So for me, I was like, well, I didn't get submitted, so I had a bit more confidence in myself. I was proud of that match, even though I did lose. And then the second guy I fought, he was a lot bigger than I was. Even though we weighed in the same weight, he was more muscle than, definitely more muscle than I am. With that one, I think I got taken down again, and by this guy, and he mounted me, and I was able to upper, right. I was able to bridge him off, and my teammates went crazy, and I was just like, and I'm not too sure what I was doing at the time, but I just took a big deep breath of relief that I got out of that position. I think I might have been playing up to the crowd, and also at the same time I was being filmed by Combat Room's camera crew that was there or something like that. So I was in a guy's guard, and then he put me into an arm bar. No, he got me in a triangle first, and I was trying to fight it, right? I was trying to stack him, And then he transitioned it into an armbar. And then I was stuck in this position. I was like, oh man, am I going to tap? And then I heard one of my teammates yell like, you've been in this position before. You know how to get out of this. And I was like, well, yeah, I know how to get out of this. So, and that armbar was tight. So I just ended up tapping. And, oh man, it was just a shitty feeling. You know, I think that whole tournament, after just facing those two guys, yeah, I felt so stink. But it's time for people to get their medals, right? And they were calling everyone else's names. And I didn't know at the time, but I didn't know there was only 3 of us. So when they called out my name for Roll for Christchurch, under 70 kilos, bronze medal, like I didn't care that I had been tapped out. I didn't care that I lost all my matches. You know, I got a medal at the end of that. And to me, that just means that, you know, I showed up, you know, and, you know, I competed. And, you know, it's not like how, it's not winning golds or winning ADCC. It's not like that, obviously. But it's just something kind of cool to look back on. But it also reminded me, is like, man, if you want to train and compete, you have to train a certain way, and you have to sacrifice a certain thing if you want to compete. You know, competing for fun that's okay, but if you compete for fun, you got to lose a lot. If you compete to win, then you will be much more dedicated, and you have to give a lot of sacrifice to your life. So I think the last competition I ever did, I can't quite remember, but I think by that time I was at my 3rd or 4th strike by then. And of course, it's changed. Like my style of jiu-jitsu had changed so much by then. You know, I was able to submit bigger guys at certain points. Of course, they were inexperienced. And I started doing like strength and conditioning. So I was still around about the same weight category, but I was just a lot more stronger back then. So I was in an in-house competition, but I had probably about 4 or 5 fights in that competition, in this in-house competition. And all these guys, I was like, even though I was one tall guy, I only got 1 submission, and this was the only submission I ever had in any tournament, and it was by an armbar. But this is pretty much a lot of the fights were very close. I thought I had with everyone, but my cardio wasn't there, and I think I was just not. Although I was kind of used to, I've already had experience with a previous competition, so I kind of knew what to expect. My body just had like an adrenaline dump as well, and it just kind of sucked that if you had lost your fight, you had to face the next person after a minute, you know, and you can have a really grueling fight, and then you have to go again. And I just remember, yeah, so like the first fight, I almost got the guy, took his back, almost had a rear naked choke, but I fell off his back, and he scored a bunch of points on me just with positions. So I lost that match. Then I faced the next guy. He was this tall dude. He took me down, but I was able to armbar him, thank God. So I was able to rest after that. And then I had to face the same guy again from the first one. And this time, he took me down. I had him in a triangle. And then I could hear him just like suffocating. But then he got out of it. My legs were too tired. And he had mounted me, and then he got me into an arm triangle. And it was like 1 minute, and I was just stuck at the bottom, like, you know, doing a telephone. And I didn't know the escape, but I knew the defense for that. So I was just stuck there. And then, like, by then I was pretty much destroyed. Like, I was so tired by then. And so I had my next match after that. And there was some Filipino kid, Brian, I think his name was, big arms. He was also a smoker, and he works at IT. And he tried to Americana me from the, like, while I was in his, while he was in my guard. I was like, oh, bro, I'm gonna get you so good with this. Because to counter that, you can take the back or you can armbar them. So I went for an armbar. I think he turned, and as he turned, I should have went belly down, but he had pulled out his elbow out by that time, so my hips wasn't gonna get it. I just remember straining real hard out, trying to, submit him with that move, but somehow he got around, and I just remember he kneed on bellied me like twice, and I could hear his coach say, "Do it again." I'm like, because he could see that obviously I was like really discomforted, which I was, and it sucked. And then I'm not really sure what happened, but I think he almost got mount. I bridged over, and then the same thing happened again. And this time this is a shorter dude. He got me in a triangle, and yeah, so he clamped on, and I just tapped, man. I was so tired by then, and I just remembered, like, I took off that ankle thing that shows you what turn you are. I just walked out to the back, and I just sat down, and I was just like, I was really disappointed, like, it's really hard to explain it, but I guess there's a lot of things that I had expectations that I wanted to do in my competition and stuff, and I was just like, man, I can't believe it. Like, every single match that I had that day, I came close, but it was like small things, like small techniques, and my body just wasn't there. It wasn't really there for me when I needed it. And then later on, all the guys from who I competed against, they all came over to me and they said, like, "Hey man, don't feel so bad about yourself, man. You did really well." The guys that you compete against, they're really tough guys. And yeah, the guy that I competed against at the start, apparently he was, from what I've heard, he was only 16, and at this time I was like probably 25 or 26. He was already in a New Zealand wrestling team, and he went on to be an MMA fighter and in a Muay Thai kickboxer. So, I mean, this kid, he's not a kid anymore, but he's a beast, and Brian's a beast too. So I think it was just, I was like, okay, maybe eventually I'll go back to competition one day, but I had to be honest with myself and say that I don't think I want to compete just to have fun, and maybe I just don't want to compete in general, because competing requires a lot of sacrifice and losing sucks. And what am I competing for? I don't know. I'm not sure. It's good to challenge yourself. I feel like I've challenged myself enough as far as tournaments go, and so I was like, well, I'm just going to be a lifestyle Brazilian, a guy that does it for a hobby,